A very good afternoon to all the respected dignitaries and participants. I'm Sakshi Batra, working as Scientist B in Central Pollution Control Board and looking on preparation and implementation of city action plans and its detailed microplanning. We all are well aware that noble vision of transforming India to clean and healthy nation has gained substantial momentum over the years, and the government is driving targeted clean air actions through translated technologies, scientific research, and policies to augment the same. The topic which I will be covering in this session is City Action Plan preparation, microplanning, and delineation of roles and responsibilities. We will go through this session in 5 broad categories. These are air quality management approach, elements of an air action plan, institutional framework for implementation of these city action plans, the microplanning of actions to estimate requirements and set the targets, and a system to review and revise these plans. Well, with the prime objective of abating air pollution, National Clean Air Program was launched as a national level strategy. The program aims to meet prescribed national annual average ambient air quality standards. In order to achieve Honorable Prime Minister's vision for improving air quality in more than 100 cities, 132 cities are being provided necessary support and guidance for implementation of city-specific action plan under National Clean Air Program and also under 15th Finance Commission grants. A strategy towards achieving cleaner air essentially has to be based on knowledge and not perception. The program focuses on developing policies driven by scientific evidences. Hence, identification of emission sources to assess their contribution to ambient air pollutants and their impacts on health are being taken up at national and also at subnational levels. Implementation of actions on ground are being envisaged to be translated into an airshed-based management. In addition to the city action plans, its states are also finalizing state action plans to support policy-based activities. The program focuses on key areas that have bearing on air quality, such as transport, industry, urban planning, and waste management. The program integrates existing national policies and programs in different sector-specific actions, such as vehicle emission and fuel quality standards, voluntary vehicle scrapping policy, LPG penetration in households, with the city-specific air pollution control options like dust and waste management, increasing public transport, etc. Tackling air pollution needs consistent efforts along with novel mitigation technologies in a time-bound manner. Constant review mechanism on actions through a 3-tier system at central and state level is also set up along with the dynamic portal, which will be discussed in the further slides. So with a vision to develop a time-bound plan with a clear roadmap of actions and responsible agencies, regional workshops were organized by CPCB during 2017 and 18 to sensitize concerned stakeholders on the need and process of developing city-specific plans for the first time. A criteria for identifying non-attainment cities was developed, wherein the cities not meeting any of the notified national ambient air quality standards consistently for the last 5 years are categorized as non-attainment city, and they were directed to prepare the detailed city action plans targeting the air polluting sources of the city. To begin with, a non-attainment city shall carry out identification of sources based on the conceptual understanding, which shall be further reviewed to add findings from scientific studies like source apportionment and emission inventory studies. Control options to emission sources based on cost effectiveness, its impact on air quality, and any other impact such as economy shall be prioritized into time-bound actions. Along with development of control actions, implementing agencies also need to be fixed, and the progress of the identified agencies shall be monitored through an institutional framework. So coming to the elements of the city action plan, as we know that with multiple agencies involved At the various level of implementation, city action plans are prepared by identifying remedial actions for different sources, time targets, and most importantly, implementing agencies for all the identified actions. Remedial actions are short-term as well as those to be implemented in a medium to longer term. Besides the sector-specific actions, city plan also specify capacity building actions such as adequate monitoring facility, identification of prominent sources through source apportionment settings, development of emergency response system like graded response action plan, and also the public participation and awareness. All the 132 cities are in the process of developing the public grievance redressal portal, wherein air pollution complaints can be addressed by the concerned agencies and the percentage of complaint resolved is available in the public domain. So city action plan, the main component of the city action plan is that it is a living document to improve air quality. As with continuous change in the availability of resources, new technological interventions, inputs for scientific studies, the city plans shall be periodically reviewed and further improved upon. So for the implementation of action, there is a requirement of the institutional framework. A strong institutional framework has been established under this program to ensure that actions do get implemented on ground. Committees have been constituted at the city, state, and the central levels to streamline the implementation, to facilitate coordination among departments, act as an interface with the central governments and agencies, periodically review the progress of the plan, and assess if any state-specific interventions are required. The information flows from local agencies identified under city plans to district, state, and the central administration. Local agencies such as urban local bodies identify sources of pollution pertaining to them through assessment studies or surveys in collaboration with the technical institutes such as institutes of repute or the think tanks. IORs have been identified for all the 132 cities to foster local technical capacity building in air quality. Control actions suggested becomes a part of the city plan, and its implementation is discussed in the district level committee meetings, which has representation from all the stakeholders wherein counter impacts, if any, can be scrutinized. CPCB is also appointed nodal officers from regional offices to facilitate coordination and highlight local implementation issues at central platforms. Then city level plans and progress are monitored at state level through committees headed by principals and chief secretaries. The states then put forward its reports and submits the quarterly progress reports to CPCB and to implementation committee chaired by the CPCB and monitoring and steering committee, which is chaired by the ministry. The overall vision and progress of this program is being steered under the Apex committee chaired by the Honorable Environmental Minister. The critical gaps funds are allocated based on the assessment by the central committees that also have representation from the line ministries and the states. So with the launch of the National Clean Air Program, few of the cities were funded under this scheme, and later million plus cities were funded under 15th Finance Commission. These funds are the additional funds to be utilized as a critical gap funding in convergence with the resources from various other schemes of central government, such as Swachh Bharat Mission, Amrut, Smart City Mission, FAME2, and etc. The states and union territories and the local governments are also there to support implementation of the city action plans. So far, out of 132 cities, 82 cities are funded under National Clean Air Program and 50 cities are funded under the 15th Finance Commission grants. Around 400 crores have been released to the NCAP cities and 4,400 crore have been released to million plus cities. Future funds are now being linked to the performance of the cities, and around 2,500 crore will be released to 132 cities in the financial year 21-22 based on the performance assessment guidelines. So in the next slide, I will be showing about the evaluation matrix of the performance assessment. The evaluation matrix is categorized into 4 major parameters, which are A, which is strengthening of the pollution monitoring mechanism, B, which is source-wise cause analysis for air pollution, C, progress on action plan and compliance of statutory guidelines and rules, and D stands for quantification of air quality improvement. So based on these four parameters, the cities are basically performance linked for the generation of grants. So for the assessment year 21-22, cities will be evaluated for A, B, and C parameter, along with utilization of funds released to at least 60% and sending of memorandum of understanding among respective SPCBs, ULBs, and the CPCB. And similarly, for the million plus cities, 100% release of earmarked funds shall be based on the four parameters and the MOU among the ministry, ULB, and the state board, and the declaration of annual accounts in their public domain. However, for the financial year 2021 and 22, it is proposed that the funds under NCAP and Finance Commission grants shall be released based on the assessment of parameter D, that is the improvement on the air quality. So now we come to the next session, which is the micro planning of actions under the city plan. While city action plans of all the 132 cities are approved for implementation, detailed micro planning of all the actions through extensive stakeholder consultation, robust monitoring is essential for effective implementation of city plans in a time-bound manner. Moreover, preparation of microplan is one of the parameters which is linked with the release of grants, and 40 numbers are given for this particular parameter. And if we speak about the benefits of the detailed microplanning, it helps to analyze the overall requirement of any action to be implemented, which further helps to set the annual targets. So once the overall requirement is worked out, the actions can be prioritized based on the availability of the resources and the funds. For example, after identification of the area and the city with a high dust generation, the mechanized sweeping machines need to be worked out, and then based on the resources, we set the annual targets. The additional funds to complete the overall target can be calculated. Accordingly, requests for the additional funds can be worked out. To expedite the preparation of microplans, a model format was prepared by CPCB and it was shared with all the state boards and pollution control committees. This uniform format was designed as such to monitor progress of the city action plans, wherein a unique code was given to each action point and the detailed overall and annual targets for each action point along with the present status was required to be filled in the format. The fund requirement for each of the action targets was also requested to be the part of this format. All the state boards and ULBs were sensitized to fill this format. However, there were some gaps in the microplans which we are receiving in these formats, especially in the terms of defining the overall and annual targets, which we will be explaining in the coming slides. Basically, to capture the progress of and to monitor implementation of plan, a dashboard is also formed up, named as Prana, wherein this format is digitized. My colleague, Ms. Parinita Barua, will be explaining about the Prana portal and how the microplans are filled in this portal in the next few slides. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Portal for Regulation of Air Pollution in Non-Attainment Cities, or PRANA, is a single interface to share information on NCAP to public as well as stakeholders. PRANA tracks physical and financial progress of city plans through digitized robust format, and the public domain of PRANA highlights actions at national level through the national dashboard and city-specific actions for 132 cities through city dashboard. Also, it acts as a repository for air quality management resources, such as methodologies for SA studies and CC studies. Under the intra portal, city microplans are being filled in the digitized format, which will be reviewed through the reporting and financial model. For example, microplanning for the action, frame and implement policy for segregation of construction and demolition waste, and provide a network of decentralized C&D waste segregation and collection sites across the city, shall start with identifying the number of construction sites and their capacity in the city to estimate the C&D waste generation in tons per day, as well as to understand the composition of waste. A method to quantify C&D waste can be referred from the TIFAC rule of thumb wherein kg per square meter waste generated has been provided for different C&D activities. Based on the C&D waste generated per day, number of storage facility required, number of transportation vehicles required, and number of recycling units required can be estimated. Also, as per CPCB guidelines, waste generation of more than 2000 TPD has to set up more than one plant for recycling. Accordingly, if the city, for example, produces 5000 TPD of C&D waste, 2 waste management plants are required. Based on this, financial requirements and timelines for establishing the facilities may be worked out. The microplanning done for this action has to be also filled at Prana. For example, this is at C&D 1.2. The overall requirement has to be filled in the first box, that is, 2 waste management facilities having 5000 TPD processing capacity. And the annual plan has to be filled in the second box, that is, 1 waste management facility with 1000 TPD shall be implemented in the financial year, which can be indicated in 1.12.2a and 1.12.2b. As the portal also captures financial requirement, in case the funds utilized are from any other resource, the same can be added as an additional source of fund.
It is very much clear that detailed microplanning is a prerequisite for implementation of city plans and monitoring it through Prana. So far, the microplans received by most of the cities lack target setting and hence are not monitorable plans. The microplans were examined by CPCB and following observations were shared with the states. That is, only present status provided by most of the cities, requirements based on local needs and resources need to be worked out, annual and overall targets to be set as per the city requirements. Microplan shall contain the list of works to be carried out. Based on the observations, expert committee of CPCB identified some of the key actions and guidance for working out the requirements for adequate implementation, and it was shared with all the states. Now, this is an example for vehicle action point for one of the city microplans submitted to CPCB. For number of POC centers, as you can see, the same number, that is 250, is given in all the 3 columns: overall target, present status, as well as in the annual target. So CPCB committee recommended that number of POC centers should be planned for the city and also provided the guidance as how it can be worked out. In this case, if number of centers required is 250 as per the guidance, then the annual target proposed will not be 250, as then it would mean that 500 POC centers are required for the city. Similarly, for another action, this is access and reduce a city bus system of appropriate fleet size of small buses and desirable bus type. As you all can see, number of city buses required for strengthening is not provided, or maybe it has not been worked out. So a guidance for the same was provided, and it was also recommended that beside providing the overall and annual targets, emphasis may be given to include more electric buses. CPCB has circulated the guidance part and requested states to mandatorily work out quantitative and qualitative actions identified by the committee. Beside the key actions, additional points pertaining to the city, like brick kilns, coal power plants, also need to be addressed. Remaining actions from the city actions are also need to be worked out. In order to set targets for any action, such as road dust control, microplanning would comprise the extent, infrastructure, and adequacy. For example, in order to set targets for mechanized sweeping of streets, the extent can be defined in terms of area and length of road covered. The infrastructure required would be mechanical road sweepers and manpower, as well as the adequacy, the number of mechanical road sweepers required for covering the identified area or the length. The technical and financial planning can be worked out through stakeholder consultation, and accordingly, phase-wise target prioritizing dusty roads can be finalized. For example, as you can see, The extent and adequacy for operation of mechanical road sweepers is missing in the present in the cities of Dimapur and Kohima. An example of adequate planning was observed in another city, wherein extent and adequacy in terms of total road length, kilometers of road length covered under mechanized sweeping, and number of mechanical road sweepers proposed for covering the desired area has been worked out for this city. So number of mechanical road sweepers required can be worked as per the guidance recommended by CPCB, wherein the city authorities should initially prioritize the types of road that has to be mechanically swept and fix the frequency of its cleaning. Based on the total length of the roads to be swept in kilometer and capacity, operational hours and frequency, kilometer per hour, hours per day, and days respectively, number of mechanical road sweepers required can be worked out. Accordingly, the overall target has to be split into the annual targets as per the time and financial feasibility. Setting targets for number of PUC centers, as we can see, the adequate number of centers required has not been worked out by these two cities. The adequacy of PUC centers will be based on the vehicle population in the city, number of centers required for testing per 1 lakh vehicles using test time and working hours. The population growth also needs to be factored in which while estimating the overall targets. Another case study is for strengthening of public transport. As we have seen earlier, mostly present status on the arbitrary targets have been provided. To estimate targets such that adequate public transport is available in the city, the target can be worked out using the level of service recommended by MOUD in the service level benchmarks document. CPCB, through its expert committee, has recommended to at least aim for a level of service 3, that is 0.2 to 0.4 buses or other public transport availability per 1,000 of population. Cities can also fix the higher targets as per the decision of the stakeholder agencies, such as higher level of service for more populated cities. So the implementation of city plan as per the targets finalized through microplans shall reduce city level emissions and improve the air quality. The source apportionment and emission inventory studies are being carried out to supplement the existing actions. For example, the focus actions such as non-motorized zone and restricted timings for heavy commercial vehicles within city limits would help in reducing emissions in the identified hotspots and could be included in the city plan as per the evidence from the emission inventory of the city. Also, impact of changes in the technology within the stipulated time frame shall help in pushing policy decisions such as converting all kilns to zigzag technology. As it can be seen in this example, that the shifting technology would lead to 66% reduction in PM10 levels by 2030 under business as usual conditions. So, to summarize, cities should expedite, review, and finalize the macro planning of each actions in approved city action plan. They should finalize the overall and annual targets for all the actions of approved city action plans. The stakeholder consultation meetings will be conducted for calculating out the adequacy, financial resources, timelines, coherence with other policy areas like transport, energy, etc. Cities may continue to implement the city action plan while they are in the process of forming up the micro plans and expedite utilization of funds. There should be close monitoring through district level committees. Capacity and competence with partners with IORs and other institutes should be carried on. Highlight issues during the city nodal officers' visits, line ministries, and implementation committee meetings. Let us join hands to make it happen. Thank you.